how important are these resources for the United States? And how do they work to create the new technology from a chemical perspective?
And in that meeting, they talked about that they wanted to take resources out of Ukraine. And it was about titanium and lithium and I think it was the uranium too. Can you more or less explain to us what these components are and why they are so important to be able to launch new ones or for new technologies?
Now more than ever, governments will be looking at which resources they can obtain from various countries. That they want to reach a trade association or a trade agreement. Let us say first that these minerals or these metals are not found in any region. Then it's not. If you already know there is a location, you want to exploit them to obtain that resource. Each one of them is very important in different areas. Lithium, as we all know, we need it for the batteries part, not only for the cellular part, but for the automotive part, which now has a strong tendency to have electric cars with better performance. And what you're going to need the most is lithium. Most of these vehicles need that component for their battery to perform better. So if you have free access, let's put it this way, you are going to have the leadership to be able to obtain better batteries or be able to develop with this lithium a better battery that can last much longer in performance, that recharges, and that above all lasts much longer, and the other materials the same in each of. From the applications of titanium, we know that it is an extremely strong metal and you are going to need it for the space race because you need to cover part of this ship with titanium. So you need these resources. So there's always going to be the power situation. If you have where you know where these sources of these minerals are, you will want to have them. Get to win the competition, well, not competition, but to be able to have these resources available, to be able to develop better technology, and so that you can lead. Because if you lack these minerals, you will not be able to develop. Everyone is looking for that, as well as at the time, oil. Oil wars also happened because you needed a lot of oil for combustion. Now you have to look for friendly alternatives in quotes, such as improving the batteries in the cone, the lithium part, the titanium part, and the uranium part. Also, you can use the uranium for the part of chemical warfare you may have, or to use this uranium as a growth source for also plants. Nuclear power, right?
Well, thank you for giving us a little more understanding of the importance of these components, not K or K. So, for example, one last question.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing it in English?
Yeah, I'm seeing them in English.
Okay. Okay. So,
And stop to see your perspective because, for example, you are neutral.
Look, I'll put it this way. Look, all of us right now want to have an electric car so as not to pollute our environment. No, because it's a car where one uses its fossil energy. But no one has thought beyond that. You say, I don't have an electric car, I move with energy. Not that we have fossil fuels that don't pollute the environment, but here it comes out. Would it be time to ask the following question? What are we going to do when proposing that there are 10,000 vehicles in the world and we are all electric? When this battery dies, what are we going to do? Where are we going to water all this battery fluid? The world is not yet ready for that, and we are going to cause another pollution. I don't know if it's the same as lower impact or higher impact, that it burns fuel. Lefosio, because no one tells you how we are going to treat those batteries and how we are going to recycle and how we are going to do that treatment. So another polluting factor could be created and, in quotes, save the world temporarily, but we remain uncertain.
Your perspective is very interesting because normally we human beings are not very good at preventing calamities in the future. Only sometimes we venture without measuring the consequences. And it's true. I mean, no, we're not thinking about deep down, but right now in the form, but not deep down, and it seems very internal to me. I'm going to ask Kevin if he has a question because I imagine he has his curiosity.
So I guess like one of my questions would be like, if there is a way, like what are the chemical reactions that are happening within like lithium and uranium that helps the car gain its energy? And is there a way to mimic those chemical reactions and like those off-brand type of things, like off-brand lithium battery, just taking like this chemical and this chemical that kind of mimics what lithium batteries are doing. Is there something like that?
The chemical reaction that makes, for example, batteries work with lithium or uranium, that is what makes it work and generate this energy, is
There is way for me there, like you reaction at Vey.
this says that if there is another chemical reaction that can be done that more or less mimics what the chemical reactions that produce, for example, lithium when producing energy like a battery or uranium, etc.
Let's see, what happens is that uranium, how can we say we won't be able to, is dangerous uranium? And we couldn't because the technology is not yet there so that we can treat 1 year in a correct way or on a small scale. Come on. We might need much more advanced equipment to put in a car by now. Change. The ITO sim behaves in a much more stable way. Their reaction generates a better energy source in terms of battery performance and helps extend its useful life. Because all these components, for example, a vehicle battery now works based on lead plates that have sulfuric acid, and this reaction that is generated is what? A reaction that is generated inside with these chemicals causes or produces the energy in a battery. In lithium, similar liquid but with greater efficiency with and the reactions are maintained for a much longer time. Yes, so that's why one of these batteries is more efficient in that they already have lithium as a component. It behaves in a more stable manner, producing a greater amount of energy in a much longer, more durable manner. So you don't change a battery in a short time. If they don't have a biotip, it seems like 10 years to me. Each of these batteries is at least about 10 years, while a vehicle battery based on sulfuric acid with lead plates can last 1 year, 2 years.
Okay, good.
Durar 1 año, 2 años. Okay. Bueno, you have another question, Kev? So
Yeah. So based off like the technology advancements and how to like build off those equipments and batteries lasting longer lifetimes, like I remember it went from like AA batteries then to like batteries that are just lasting way longer than AA. So it's like a race for technology advancement. Which one do you think they're possibly gonna implement faster? The AI computer use or the vehicle energy consumption use? Because like in my perspective, it's kind of like if you utilize like AI computer use, you could probably use like some programs and statistics to predict different outcomes if you go for that race versus like if you race for energy and transfer like transportations, etc. That's probably like a race for like
He says that from your perspective and with the experience you have, what do you believe, what technology do you believe is going to be more relevant, if artificial intelligence technology or the race to seek ecological and efficient transportation with all the technology that is being produced? From your perspective, what you think is it going to be more important?
It's just that you have to depend on the person. He will answer you. Why? Because now everyone wants to turn to artificial intelligence. But I'll tell you something. We have to be smarter because artificial intelligence can make certain situations easier for us, but it does not make everything easier for us. We have to program, we have to generate the questions well so that this artificial intelligence can also answer. But all of us are what we are going to fill the information to this artificial intelligence, and according to the information that we enter. Are you going to give us the answers? If we put in junk information, the information is not going to be good, whatever they give us, I would believe. For me, the most important thing would be transportation that is much more environmentally friendly, not only regarding the means of transportation, but also in each of the products we consume. I believe that we as people already have to take responsibility for this. In not improving the planet, but in reducing the degree of pollution, because we all pollute from the very fact that God is going to bathe us. It is already a source of pollution that we say we are going to bathe and clean ourselves, but it is already a source of pollution by the products that are intended to generate this cleaning, shampoo, soap, bar soap, liquid soap, gel. All of these have polluting components, and we all fill our mouths saying sorry. I don't know if the term is also used anymore, but we all say that this is biodegradable, but biodegradability will depend on the time in which that product no longer pollutes. Because I can also say glass is biodegradable, but it takes many years, and that's what I'm going to do. So try to reduce all this, and all this will have to be aimed at mobilizing us in a much more friendly way with the least polluting environment, always looking for the least polluting thing. And looking to the future, as I told you about the batteries of electric cars, it is going to reach a point where what are we going to do with this whole problem? Batteries that no one tells you. They see you, they sell you the vehicle, and they tell you, no, with this you're not going to pollute, but the battery is going to run out in a few years. I'm going to have problems. What are they doing with all these little batteries? Is he like the one who made the tires? You know how many tires are in the seat and how many tires can't. They don't know what to do. It's a contaminant. So we have to learn to look at that.
Very good perspective, and thank you for answering it. This has been a little segment to fill our curiosity with wisdom and knowledge.
Thanks. No, I think we can all contribute different forms and stop forming a shield of ourselves that is taking the flag. I don't want to pollute. We don't have to think beyond. Look for ways, and not everything they tell you. It's true. You have to question. Sorry.
Sure and well. That concludes our small segment, The World of Chemistry, on the Hectic Squill podcast. Thank you very much, Kevin. Excellent questions, and this is just small segment. When I tried to cut this up every at least once a week, that this was awesome. Thank you so much, and wait for more. Or Kay, we already finished this segment. Very to what cool. Very good. Hey.
CAM on Kevin. Very interesting.
Very good, very good. Now, thank you very much. I know it was improvised, but
No. The thing is, we have to make him more visible. The essential point is,
or you know what? Why don't we do this on our next show? This can be like a little advertising by, and we can talk about this topic in the next, David.
sir, it's my pleasure. Let's see. The thing is that we have to learn to think beyond our boundaries. It's important to question everything, as not everything we hear is the absolute truth. We have to broaden our thinking. I believe that this world has become one driven by immediacy. If you consider for the moment, we rarely plan beyond a 5-year horizon.
And also the spread of misinformation.
Of course, immediacy makes you create many things that create quick solutions to what they tell you or what it is. That's why artificial intelligence. If I put in junk information, I'm going to have bad information.
That's definitely good. So let's start with the program. Now that it's about, we're going to focus on chemistry and the universe. And I loved what you sent me about water on Mars too. So let's talk when Kevin has a question. I pause for a little while to ask me the question, and I will try to do a better job of translating it because the translation is also a little complicated. So let's start. Then I'm going to do the intro. Heaven, you want to do inside, and or I do inside.
Entonces voy a hacer el intro. Kevin, you want to do the intro or I do the intro?
I think you do the intro. It's Spanish
Alright.
and English. It's just
I got-
just for Spanish and English.
I got you. Entonces, welcome back to the Ethics Guild podcast. We have our chemist friend, David Andrade, today in our podcast with Kevin, my co-host. You already know this is going to be fun. And we're going to be talking about... No importa que esto se edita. So today we're going to be talking about the chemists and chemistry in the universe, how everything works, how everything gets cooked. And we've been very curious about, how chemistry plays a huge role in the universe. So our first question, I don't know, Kevin, you want to lead the way?
I guess. What is that? What is the space? Because what does that matter between like me and the wall? Because there's something there in that space between. How would you explain it? Like how would you explain it with the chemical eye so I could see what's between it?
Dice él que in the universe. I mean, how could you explain what space is? I mean, what is it? Because, for example, it is a void. Are there chemical reactions from a chemical point? What is it? What is it that you more or less know? Or what do you imagine you can do?
Look, starting with what explains to you that the universe, as current as we've known him 4 years ago, how many more than 4 billion years ago there was a big explosion, the Big Bang then, and this continues to expand. It is not at rest, but rather these continue to grow, and there are many more stars, constellations. Each one of these planets has different components, and each one has a different time as well. In what sense? If we already saw on Mars, there are already signs of club waters in many millions of years, which is what I sent you. Here we are a little further behind. Let's say it in terms of whether we compare it to Mars, because here on Earth, everything began with hunting elements that at the moment of the explosion generated reactions and were formed from elements to compounds. One example were associated according to their highest affinity. Some metals remained inside the earth, compressed, and became the minerals we have now. Gold, silver, lithium. All these others were left in the environment, reacting and generating these compounds that gave rise to something more than atoms in the environment. If not, they were already products that were generated by these chemical reactions that they had due to the interaction, which could have been due to temperatures, electrical discharges, different gas clouds, and these reacted, generated other compounds. The simplest water, hydrogen, is an oxygen gas. Maybe there was something that generated this infinity of hydrogen, oxygen, and formed water. It is said that in order to create a road, you need water. So if we see that Mars had water, they have already gone through this. That is, all these types of reactions have already been generated, and they also had life. But something different happened there, that here perhaps the resources exhausted them much more. And just like what happened on Earth, we see that other planets have signals that there had to be, that there was water, or there's water frozen in it, not just on the surface, but inside the planet. But each one has a different composition. So what I think is that at the time of the explosion, like they distributed different elements on each one of the planets. Because of those, each one has different shapes, different types of atmosphere, different types of compositions, and that have been discovered here. Metallic things from previous civilizations, where one says this metal does not belong to the earth. Perhaps there are on the earth, but minimal compositions that perhaps we have not discovered yet, but that in another planet is abundant. Just like here, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen is abundant, and water was formed, and we have more water in other. It didn't form then like this explosion. What it did is different atoms go to different types of planets, and so we have different atmospheres, different reactions, and maybe there was water there on Mars, but there was not the same. There was not the same reaction that there was here on Earth. Why? Because remember that something called the ozone layer was also formed here. And ozone usually make a gas is by 2, but ozone is by 3. That is 3 oxygen atoms, which is something It is not a reaction, let's say, very common. And this whole layer formed around the Earth. If we think about it, this ozone layer was formed. And perhaps this is what has allowed these gases not to continue escaping, and that the reaction continues, and that life has occurred as we have it until now in the environment circumstances that we have it now, because they don't talk to you about ozone. On Mars, they don't tell you about the presence of a Venus. There are no features of this. So here perhaps they made the conditions for this to happen then. As I was telling you, the same elements that are on Earth may not be on Mars, but there are elements that can continue to react, but the same conditions do not exist, and we have metals from other places. What we have to see is how we reproduce from a controlled environment and already similar conditions so that we can have water or maintain water, which is the priority good for life to occur. I have
Curiosity, David, for instance, you mentioned the Big Bang, which was an expansion. Looks like it's apparently a chemical explosion, doesn't it?
Yes, some say it's an explosion, and all this takes many, many elements that each one reacted in a different way on different planets, let's say. I don't know, they all have elements.
My question is this, more or less, because logically it is one, as you say, it expanded chemically and dispersed. But what is it? I mean, I'm curious to know more or less what the hypothesis or theory is, if there is one, of why, what makes the universe continue to expand? What kind of reaction or energy keeps you pushing outward?
The thing is that since there is no gravity, there is nothing that prevents the object from being maintained, so the energy or movement will continue. We also know that we still remain within the orbit of the solar system due to the gravitational effect. But this explosion still occurred, and the other galaxies continue to expand. Our solar system no longer, but the other galaxies that emerged from this big explosion that are said to be no longer expanding, and that's what they call pure dark matter. That's the dark matter, they say. Of what we know is 5% of everything that is the EL, the universe.
Of course, what is your hypothesis about the school subject? Because no one has knowledge, but what more or less do you, from the point of view, not only chemistry, but what more or less can you imagine now?
Since we can't see it, we refer to it as dark matter. It exists beyond our visual range, necessitating special tools for observation of instruments to be able to view them. I know that much more is already being analyzed, especially outside our solar system. So everything unknown is red dark matter, everything unknown. That's why it's called dark matter. And I also assume that it also calls it dark matter because it is also how far our sun's radiation would reach to be able to reach them. So I think it's more because of that, but it exists. Remember that we are just a grain of sand on a beach. Despite our best efforts, we've yet to uncover all the secrets of our solar system due to the vast distances and time required to explore each planet. Each one is unique, and we still lack certainty. Even with Mars probes being sent for investigation, we need to identify their components because this information is vital.
Immediate treatment is necessary.
To reproduce what has already happened here. Yeah. For dark matter, do you think if it's discovered, because it goes through certain like materials, it goes through objects, time, space, like when discovered and when there is a way to utilize it, like manipulate dark matter, right? Like to utilize as a tool. Do you think that would help us on the exploration of our solar system? And is dark matter that current of the universe? Is that the first thing that the Big Bang let off to expand?
There is like the material that caused the universe to expand more. That is the universe to expand. And if, for example, if it was known what black matter is, if this could do that, for example, the exploration of our system.
Like if there's a way to like travel through dark matter, like travel and like the way that dark matter travels. If there was a way
Okay,
to, like,
I got it.
Transported in a unique way. We are not unaware of it. But if it could be used like that as a navigation system behind that, can one be used? That current is the imagination that he has.
Of course, no. What happens is that to see dark matter as such, it does not emit any light or energy, so it cannot be used to transport you there. It is called that because it has no gravitational force, and this is much further away from our solar system. Then we'd be pure because we can't see it anymore. It's not that he has an energy. Until now, it is not known that it has energy. But it is simply because, let's put it this way, it is what we cannot see or cannot see. And this, since it does not have the force of gravity, it is not that it is going to push or remain in that location, but rather that it continues to move and moves a little further and further away.
The force then?
Let's say it is the lack of gravitational force. The composition itself is not known, but it is said that no, it does not emit or has no energy.
he says,
He says he doesn't seem to have any friction whatsoever either.
No, because when you have friction, you need something to rub with. And this is actually just moving in space since it lacks that gradient force which would attract it. So it continues to move indefinitely.
It's like a phantom force or an aura. Hard to explain.
It's like throwing an object and you know that it's not going to return, but it's going to continue moving indefinitely and leave. Imagine I'm in a room with light, and when I throw it and leave the room with light, it becomes part of dark matter, and I can't see or know what it is exactly. Without gravity acting on it, those objects will continue on forever.
Infinity.
Exactly. We don't even know the full extent.
Toy GNGN. Very good. The involvement of Oron here is significant. I think Oron is our other person who always does the unexpected. Does he have a question for you as well, David?
drum roll. So she said, how do you envision the role of chemistry in addressing global challenges like climate change or resource depletion?
All right, so repeat the question again. I'm sorry.
Yep. How do you envision the role of chemistry in addressing global challenges like climate change or resource depletion like climate attack?
Does it say how you see the climate challenge from a chemical point of view?
Change.
Regarding climate transformation, for example, the lack of resources in where I use my music.
Resource institutional.
Whether it's the lack of resources and climate changes, how from a chemical point of view, how do you see that?
In environmental transformation.
Yes, environmental change and also development, also logically that our resources may run out.
No, well, first I'm going to see when there's climate change. What it generates is that you use more polluting resources because you need to. To combat an environmental effect first is if it is too cold there, you're going to need to generate heat and light. Even then, we don't have clean energy. What Ecuador had in a climate process, which was a drought where there were many drought problems, did not exist. An adequate level of the rivers and for which the hydroelectric plants could not work. There were blackouts of up to 14 hours that generated this of energy being generated with fossil combustion equipment, and we pollute and create another effect, which is pollution. In a process of climate change, pollution, we had drought, but as a society we needed electricity to be able to develop for our work, because everyone needed to produce, because if you produced us, there was no money, there was no flow of money. And the societies, and it was no, we all support ourselves on money. We don't live on hugs and greetings. You have to generate wealth or money, and if you don't have electricity, you don't generate it. Then due to a pollution process, we had a climate change that was drought, which we made up for. With burning fossil fuel, we use fossil fuel to obtain it, which is through a process. We take oil, we apply chemistry to obtain petroleum derivatives, and with this generate combustion, the most suitable to obtain the greatest performance of an engine that generates energy for me, and not in one way. It cleans between through the force of water that generates the movement of a turbine. So we don't have source sources of electricity generation here either. For example, wind and geothermal, which are non-polluting, or nuclear, because we don't have a nuclear plant. But you need resources to have a plant, and other problems where there is no good maintenance of these nuclear plants that can also generate pollution. So we don't have the say that it would be best to have a controlled nuclear plant here, a fission, confusions with uranium fission, uranium fusion. Well, it's better to have these energy sources through a nuclear plant and be like the
Simpsons is going out there, not the Lord.
but look what that, for a problem of pollution, we had drought, and likewise now we have the opposite effect, which is too much rain and flooding. Then that's my turn. We have to apply instead more physical than chemical methods so that rivers do not overflow. But this also generates problems.
Interesting. You even have a question. Do you have a question, Kels?
Yeah, I'm action out 1 for orange, toying he consonant gremu on. What do you think is the most overloved and under pressure area of chemistry in modern science?
That's a very good one. Now he asks you, what is the part of chemistry which is perhaps underestimated, but which has a lot of value that is in today's modern chemistry. Is that right?
It's the most overlooked area of chemistry in modern science.
It says, I mean, it's the part, the chemistry in the area that is least sought after, but which is perhaps very important in today's modern chemistry.
The environmental brother, the environmental. Stop polluting anyone, no one, because everyone seeks to generate money. And the more money you generate, less friendly, the most lucrative sources are the ones that pollute the most. So I think environmental chemistry explains what can happen to you or why, because you try to see what is happening now and what may happen in the future. If we don't remedy this contamination, then no one pays attention to something that says no. That can happen after 20 years, or say no, no, no. We have had a non-polluting source. That's a lie. They all generate some pollution to a lesser degree, yes. And then the least expensive one is to practice environmental chemistry or environmental factors. It is the one that is going to generate the least resources or least importance for you, because that's because there's no conscience.
Very good question to ponder.
Yeah. Muy buena pregunta. Kevin, you have a question for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. So going off like environmental, like I also think of like chemistry, like in like products and things like that. So there's an application that I got called Bobby Approved, and it goes off of like saying if the foods are good or bad. Like I wonder if there was a application developed for the chemicals and other products like in soaps, drinks, food, etc. Like I wonder if there's a way of like what are those ways of like polluting our bodies, because we pollute our bodies with a lot of chemicals. How do we bring that to the front of the product industry?
He says, for example, if there was an application equal to, for example, for products like soap, shampoo, etc., that it can give you like a notice that could be contributing to pollution.
Is it legitimately more hazardous?
He repeatedly asks, how can you raise awareness, inform if it existed, for example, even make an application where we can give advance notice of how we can potentially contaminate our bodies with the products we use, more or less. Like how you think that would be relevant, because I mean, we pollute the environment a lot, but we also forget that we pollute ourselves.
Everything is always under review. Every one of the components are generated for cleaning product, food intake product, and are always under review. Now, there is the issue of red dye 3. which already has to be removed in many foods. I don't know how he'll get to where you are. Here is the application that everyone, all products that have that colorant, for example, have already started to remove it and have a maximum, I think, of 2 years for them to completely remove it, because they give you time. You say, but because they don't remove it at this time and they can use it for up to 2 years. And the reasons, because you also have to do tests to ensure that changing the dye does not cause any problems with your final product. In 2 years, I can't make a quick change. That is, I don't take out the dye at this time and put the one that I can put in this product. But you also have to see the stability of run a new product stability again. I don't know if I made myself understood. And so many products are being reviewed for preservatives, which can cause cancer, dyes that can cause cancer, or some sweetener which have some reaction and which can also cause cancer or some other disease. So they're all under review.
Sure.
But once they ban them, they give you a prudent time to be able to remove it completely. And thus, I believe that we must nourish a base so that we can also be aware of our body. As I told you, very rarely I take medication because something I have is because my body is warning me, and I have to see why. For example, why do I cough? Why am I coughing if I don't have a flu condition? It can be a reflux problem, a problem of the upper respiratory tract with a retronasal drip. So you have to see the cause origin. No, simply take the medicine so that it generates me and I don't stop coughing, for example. Already then here we also have to see the causes of what? Food or not which food, but which components of a food can harm me. And we can have that. And so that people are aware not only of food, of products that we use for cleaning in our home or to fumigate or to bathe. Every one of these products can be polluting and has great pollution, and they are always under review. For example, triclosan can already be used, can no longer be used. There is already a review of titanium dioxide, since in paint products or in products already titanium dioxide was also used in the coating of a tablet, for example. You don't have to go out anymore. You don't have to go anymore then. This one is always on TV, but it would be nice to have something and an app or something that tells you whenever you can and can't use. Here I already tell you there is also the issue of a dye. Monitoring has already begun here. I don't know if it is done here. There is an organism called ARSA, ARCSA. He started taking food samples and they realized, for example, that there were high levels of lead and there shouldn't be any more lead. Then there began to be medicine, not just foods with lead product. Then they released those products, and I think that the companies were given a notification that they have to carry out their processes better so that it does not happen again. And so there is another product, and relationships are always made here in the product. So one has an ARSA application here and always reviews the notification. For example, the last one I remember was of an alcoholic preparation that had methyl alcohol. Can they blind you?
Sure, yeah.
So here then you always get information and you see, go, look, go, there is the product. It says it has alcohol, methyl co, no, don't consume it, and everyone is informed. So I would believe that having a tool is an application or being able to inform society always of if there is a contaminated product or this contaminates much more, or that is possibly it can be. It has been detected that it can possibly produce cancer, not to scare, but to inform and thus prevent, or that we as a society can say, hey, you can no longer continue selling this product, or what happened with talcum.
No, yeah, I heard about talcum powder.
And that was because it cost that company company Cocalco a lot that there was a pollutant.
Sure. Now, and it's interesting because here it's like a war of interest, not the business and the political influence and the strength that an elite person has that can sometimes even flex these things. Because I imagine there will be a lot of chemicals. They realize that these are pollutants and perhaps they provide the appropriate information, because I imagine that you also have to do research and experimentation to get an analysis to verify that these components are definitely this.
Contaminated. Well, of course.
These are years of study, and I wanted to ask a question to you, Kevin, and you, David, because look, I want to stay a little bit in the universe, and we know what gravity does more. We don't know what it is. We know that it is a force, but we don't know what exactly it is. I mean, here we have to use a little our imagination. I wanted to ask you both. I don't know who wants to start. What do you believe? How do you visualize? What is gravity? Well, we know the force, we know what it does, but we don't know exactly what it means. We don't know what I don't know. If you want to start, David or Kevin, I don't know which one you want to start. David, no.
No problem, no problem. But I look at it like this in sleep. I was left with that thought and said, I think I'm going to say it on the podcast. I thought, like in a balloon, you have the balloon, and the shape of the outside of the balloon is the ozone that maintains everything, right? And I'm thinking about Earth, nothing more. But because the other planets don't have gravity, and it's a force that attracts you, right? So thinking about the Earth, if I make the analogy of a balloon where the circumference of the balloon is ozone, and you know that if you put something, you can't move it, and something is going to stay because the air keeps it there, you can't move it. Because the same pressure exerted within the air, and we are full of gases, remains at the point. So in order to get out, they must overcome that resistance of that air or that force of the balloon that can no longer continue to enter, because it's the balloon. No, it's not that the longer, the bigger the failure becomes, but that it already has that shape, or like a crystal sphere. So you put air pressure on it. No, it will be able to move. And to be able to move, you need to overcome that force that you have inside. And that keeps you looking at it like this inside the Earth. So like the outer layer or glass is ozone. I saw it like this and I thought, I don't know, dreaming why this question is going to come up.
Can you imagine it?
I imagined it. How about we explain it this way? But also, and now going out to the part of the universe, perhaps there is a force also outside that keeps us a little, and that does not allow it, because the planets continue to revolve around the sun, and it is not that they catch and shoot and go elsewhere. Those that continue in their elliptical waves circling the sun, I mean, there must be something that keeps these planets there, like some kind of a balloon that's hugging them. Don't let them out there because they can leave.
Is it a good? What do you think? You ready?
I like to think of it like a magnet, but like a spherical magnet that goes down, like a sheet, and then like a point on the sheet that just kind of goes there, and then everything goes down into the sheet. And the further away an object is like the further or least magnet. So like the Earth is not going to like crash into the sun because of like the perfect distance we have. And the way that it's like being spherical, like the Earth is being dragged toward, I mean, the sun is being dragged towards something, right? So it's moving towards something. So there has to be like some kind of gravity pulling it, and then the Earth is following the pull of the sun, but it's not crashing into the sun, because I don't think it's like a linear, like I don't think it's a linear magnet. I think it's like a spherical magnet, because the Earth spins. I mean, as the sun spins down, the Earth will spin down. Same with the other planets. So, and then like going back to the black hole, I think like the ultimate like gravitational pull is probably like the source of the black hole, or maybe like the expansion of the black matter, like maybe the like the source of the gravitational pull from the Earth expanding, like maybe it's like expanding away from the center of where the black hole started, and it's being pushed outwards to the edges of the universe. And then that's where we're getting like pulled towards, like we're getting pulled towards the edges away from the center, like where it's getting expansion outwards. So it's probably like a reversed like whirlpool So it's probably like a reverse whirlpool in space. Um,
I like that. I like that.
That allows, for example, the sun and the earth not to collide, and that it maintains that distance east, as those who say that it is not harmful to the earth. But he says that it is like a resemblance, like a what is this called when a hole is made in the water? This one.
Waves that causes you waves.
Yes, like for example, yes, a wave, but it goes deep, and I don't know. It's called what orfall here in English. I don't remember what it's called. Is it like a water tornado practically? So he imagines that with those forces, they are maintained, right? That is, and I am going to say in Spanish what I think. I like both concepts. I think that there definitely has to be a capsule of an energy that we don't know about, which is perhaps a mixture of magnetism and chemistry, because for that, of course, to keep things together, that is, at a distance that doesn't change much. I mean, it has to do. It's like, as you say, it's like the solar system is in. She's got her own, maybe it's not even a capsule, but it has to be radiation. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but an energy like electrical radioactive that sustains all things by means of that energy. Because remember, the universe it's violent and it's expanding. And it's like you throw those balls, like you said, no. And it keeps violently moving forward. But it's as if that were its own component, that is its entire component. And if we are going to talk about the galaxy, and here we are going to go to another very interesting topic, which is black holes, right? I mean, the black hole is maybe the answer. Where does all that energy that keeps things going come from? No, because the energy is so strong, that it emits, that perhaps that's what keeps these solar systems and galaxies in place. That is, it keeps them in place because it's right in the center of any galaxy, right? So I start thinking, I mean, everything that goes in, but Hawkins, I think he taught us that there is radiation that black holes emit outside, right? So that's my curiosity. And this question goes for both of us because we don't learn that much knowledge about black holes either. And I don't know what I want to go to first, but what do you think? I mean, I asked you, David, and Kevin, from your chemical point of view, what is a hole? What's a blessed black hole? And which one? What does it do chemically to matter?
Let's see what happens. The women in black first is a force of gravity that is going to bring you, and therefore there is also part of how we have all talked about that there is energy, because we are all energy, everything, everything, everything. We are all energy because energy is always being produced in our body, energy around. There's energy at rest, there's energy in motion. All motion generates energy. No, and it's true. All this energy force is going to attract and attracts object. And a black hole has a strong gravitational pull. Not that she says because even light can attract her. Therefore, this is the worst destroyer that there can be on a planet within a system, because it's going to attract you and it's going to break you down, because in the end, there's going to be nothing left.
I mean, how do you think it chemically decomposes a black hole? Because
What happens is that it is a gravitational force that will write to you, and it won't matter because we put it like a whirlwind. So when there is a tornado, something that enters the tornado is not going to stay, because the very force it has is going to bring you towards the center, and in the accelerated movement it destroys you. No matter what composition you're in, it's going to destroy you with the same move. The centrifugal force of a tornado can generate a change in a structure that will leave you with nothing, apart from the fact that this black hole is not that it becomes straight, but rather that a vortex is generated. So every time the space you enter becomes longer, so there is no more time, there is nothing. You will bring it to you and it will tear you to pieces. There will be nothing like it.
He says, as he says in Ecuador, I have done a piece.
Yes, no, there's nothing left. I mean, everything is going to collapse. As I tell you, you are entering the black hole, and perhaps the beginning will take you so long until the end that there is no time arrangement, or there is going to be a time arrangement. Not even the light is going to escape.
Thinking like with the force of like the black hole, like bringing everything together and like shredding things apart, like it kind of has me thinking about like a cake mixture. like you bring all these ingredients together, and then outside of like the egg yolk, and then outside of like the cake batter and the milk, then you mix it all together and it creates a cake. And like I wonder if that's possibly like how like maybe new planets are made. Like, is it from this planet getting sucked into a black hole, like this planet that has like a different chemistry, like has different chemical compositions and different metals on it, versus like this planet that has different chemicals and metals, like a diamond planet versus a gas planet versus like a like Pluto planet, like just another random planet that's built in there. And like in the black hole, it's like getting like it's going through the mixture, it's going through the pot making. And then outside of the black hole, like maybe the black hole has to like spit something back out of after like ingesting, like it's eating like the planets, but it has to poop. So so it's white hole.
Yeah, white hole. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's like white holing another planet out. So I wonder, like, I guess let's play with the idea. Do you like if there was a perfect planet that you could create based off its chemical compositions and its materials on the planet, and just mixing it all into like one pot? What kind of planets would you want to get sucked into the black hole to create like that perfect planet?
That's a interesting. That's a question for David.
Yeah, both of you guys.
Yeah.
That's open.
All right. Entonces,
Bottom. Since we do not know the other side, perhaps to form a new form of life, because that information, I imagine,
You don't have to.
of course, it has to go somewhere because supposedly nothing is lost in the universe. No, especially in chemistry, everything is composed. Is it recomposed in other things? Don't you? And he says, for example, it would be interesting that, for example, in this black hole, come on, 111, diamond planet with a planet full of gas. In other words, those combinations would create something spectacular. What if you could create a perfect planet? How? How could one see that? No, I'm going to answer before we stop more or less going to that point. I think the black hole, as they both say, especially what Kevin says, is not a force that has a purpose. Well, I don't think that it doesn't have a purpose, that it is such a great force that when everything is expanding into information, that is, this whole into information stops, as Kevin says, stops in one place or perhaps another dimension, because we're not talking about dimension, right? Nah, but maybe in another dimension, creating life that's going to be lost eventually in that galaxy, right? So, for example, we know that galaxies, planets are going to explode and eventually they're going to expand to the point that they're not going to have life, right? So maybe it's a way, as they say, to feed back a system. An environmental system of the universe to maintain life or to maintain substances is like a giant blender. The giant blender takes the components and sometimes turns it into a liquid. No, but that's what I'm saying is complicated. Why? Because just imagining that this sucks everything that goes in and takes all things out would be, I imagine that when it comes out, it has to come out like as if it were a big bang. It doesn't have to come out explosively. It can't come out because likewise, since it enters abruptly and with force, it has to come out in such a way. No, in my ignorance, I say no.
No. It's also, of course, true. We know that energy is just transforming, but also this energy is transposed so that this black hole grows a little bit more. And it destroys, but through destruction generates something different or something new, something that generates. And let's hope that this was the part of the Big Bang being positive, and that this generates a planetoid, and that it also generates these new components there. Perhaps there we will find different and new reactions, because each one of these as you say now, take these components and generate something different, because within the process itself, reactions occur that occurred here on Earth. Yes, but I see it much more as destruction.
Like a demolition.
Let's not say and generate something and I generate destruction. I feel calm when the energy is exhausted, leaving nothing more to destroy. From the ashes of destruction, something new can emerge.
Right, you don't know?
Bang. So he comes tayo nuti yung new mod culture new. Yeah, it's I think it's so true. I think like black holes, like they are like the structures. Like they come in like tsunamis of they're like the tsunamis of the solar system. And they just tear through. But then on the other side too, I'm like creativity comes from a little bit of like destruction. It comes out of like not sometimes it comes out of destruction because you have to take apart something and rebuild it. And then like I think everything has like a little yin yang. Like with the chaos comes in like a huge light. But I don't think we have seen the light of a black hole yet because we just don't know how to control the chaos of the black hole. Like it's such a hard thing to like if anybody goes inside, this it's not like you could tie a rope to somebody and pull them back out of a black. Yes, it's like we're scared of things we don't understand. Like imagine if like I would love to go inside a black hole, but then it's like there's no guarantees of coming back out. It's like once you're in that, like you're in it.
I mean, that's from that point of view, but is it interesting to come to these little hypotheses? No, because for example, I sometimes think and think a lot sometimes, what is time? No, it is time, it is perhaps the movement of the explosion that is propelling us, and that is why it passed. That is because, for example, I wouldn't even know how to ask you if there is any uh, this is more, I think, physical than chemical, but chemistry and physics are, but they are like best friends practically. So that's why sometimes I say, how can time be a chemical component? But also space has chemistry, and so you can follow space. There are chemical components that chain this reaction. So for me, time is like it is. This is something that maybe just drives forward, but we have this imagination that we can travel back in time. In the past, I wanted to ask you first what you think time is. And you really believe you can travel back in time? I don't know who wants to go. First, because I'm curious to hear your perspective.
Just one question.
Tell me.
Where did that question come from? Is there a paper? It's all over the.
No, the truth is that I don't know where from, but I think since we are talking about the topic, are we you? Do you want Kevin to answer first
Or we can do a conversation of taking pieces and each one comes to a different conclusion. It's not good. But the first thing is that we always go and we will always want to measure all things, always. So measure, I'm talking energy, measuring reactions, measuring ourselves, height, weight. There will always be that measure. So someone like us started making a lot of hypotheses saying, hey, why do you see? I see that the light comes out and hides again until I come again and again to see the light. What if I start measuring and someone starts in your head and starts measuring? And I said, look at this period. I count or I simply put a wand and I see that it is moving and I'm going to put a shadow on how my shadow is moving now. And he began to measure it, and that it was called time in hours. In our knowledge, we know that it is day and night, that it is in the movement that the earth gives, which is now called rotation, and that gives us the day, which is what it takes for the earth to make a complete revolution. No, and that could be measured. But at the same time, we also have another measure, which is the movement of the earth towards the sun that we call the year. Yes. Isn't the measurement of us versus someone who is on Mars or who is on Venus going to be the same? Because the distance to go around the sun is much shorter. Yeah. So we can make those measurements. Okay, because we already have the devices for what? To measure. So we are always going to want to measure ourselves as humans. We are going to want to measure everything now than this one. Measurement, or this unit of measurement, we always call time. And going back or getting ahead of this measurement of time, I don't know if it will really be feasible, because we have to break physical laws. And how we break those physical and chemical laws, because in the end my whole body has to be transported to a point where I want to get to. Then there's going to be a complete modification of my entire structure within and in the human body in one. Second, many chemical reactions are generated, so the possibility of being able to travel and move, because it's not just a physical function. Time measurement is also, I'm going to take an object between this a human, because it is we travel in time. Because if it were a thing, how can we certify that I really traveled in time this rate? Since I say he traveled to A at 7 p.m., how can I measure that already? So in order to be able to say I traveled through time, it's a living organism, and we have to manipulate not only the physics, but the chemistry, the very chemistry of our body. It seems complicated to me. I do see it more as science fiction, because you have to move an entire body, a person, cells from one time to another. I wouldn't think it feasible. Or how are you going to reassemble all those cells correctly? How are you going to do that? I mean, I find it very complicated. I say impossible. I see it as very complicated because there are reactions in our body that are too complicated. The very fact of breathing entails many reactions. The same fact that our cells are always generating energy, generate many reactions within us. So be able to change or stop, or that you are continuing to maintain in a correct way, manipulating the time measurement. I see it as very complicated.
I really liked your explanation. I want to hear what Kevin has in mind.
Yes, let's see. Every day the slow time is like I'm as like
Quiero escuchar lo que Kevin tiene en mente.
yeah. I really enjoy that. It's like time as light. Time is like I can see how time could be measured as like the light, as the sun. But then when we measure time as the light and as sun, it's linear. Like when light comes through, it's very linear. You can see like a shadow that comes behind it. Like that's why it's so easy to kind of manipulate light, because you could just move light around and then it could be easy, just to like for example, like you can't really see the shadow behind this hand because I have light right in front of me, but if I moved it towards the right, you'll start seeing shadows in different areas. Like if I poke down, oh yeah, you can see like the little shadows through. So I'd like to think of like time as light, because that was one of the things that was easily measured, sun clocks and all that. Now, as to moving back in time, I think one of the measurements that we might be missing is the space within time. Like time as a light is just that, it's that linear edge that goes like this. But space is kind of like that chaotic potential underneath time. It's kind of like that dark matter in a sense. Like dark matter could just travel through objects in any way. But light can't travel through objects. Light, it just goes straight. So I guess I'm wondering if there was like a vehicle, a capsule, something that can take over that chemical change that goes on in the body. Like when you drive on a car and you're going, let's just throw up a high number. You're going 100 miles per hour. Like your body is not going 100 miles per hour, but the car is going 100 miles per hour. The car is like feeling the full outside force of what goes on. The body feels like a little bit like the gravity. The body feels the gravity of the force. So I'm wondering if there was a way and to create a capsule that can take on the chemical part of it, like the spaceship, like for like since our body changes to space, it'll be like that spaceship in time. Like it will take on that blunt force of traveling through time, so our bodies could be still so the entropy isn't that as there. Like our bodies won't like change back in time. Like it'll travel through the dark matter back. Because if it travels through light, it's just gonna go linear, and like we can't go backwards in light, because light is that friction of going back, because light just only goes this way, it doesn't go this way. But dark matter could go this way and this way. So it's like how can we create that vehicle to just not impact our bodies chemically?
You know, it's funny. I was going to ask something within what you're saying. I'm going to tell him exactly what you were saying, and then your question, and I'll add mine on top, because I think we were aligned kind of like where we were going. And look,
He sees that, for example, space is like down in space. If you can manipulate, because in space there is black black matter that calmly passes any object? No. Then he says that perhaps there may be an opportunity to see how chemically you can or physically you can alter or perhaps manipulate these sciences to be able to return or create a vehicle that can be transported by that medium. IY almost aligned because I wanted my next question. It's almost engaged with what he's talking about. For example, he is also talking that in a vehicle you go 100 mph, you feel the force of gravity. Because now to build that vehicle, we also have to be chemically wise. Because, for example, David, if a person builds a vehicle that we suppose goes half a light year, what's that for? What would Allah do to the human body? I mean, what could the human body do that goes at half a light year of the speed of light? Excuse me.
First, you can see speed, but you won't feel it because it's the object generating it. Just like you might go 100 or 200 km/h in a vehicle, but don't feel the exact speed, only see it on the speedometer. Why can't I measure how fast I'm going? The speedometer already tells me, but my body is going to generate a change when that object, if it stays in line, I'm not going to see anything. But at the moment, a curve arrives. At the force I'm going, at the speed, I'm going to generate gravity, and that's going to affect me. What happens to Ace-2 Formula One driver? That they have such great gravity. They are going very fast, and the problem is the gravity in the curve, because the curves take them at an inclination, and when you tilt your body at the speed you are going to generate, the gravity is going to A. To affect, I believe that if I go in a straight line without any obstacles, I won't feel it. My body will not feel it. When there is a variation in the direction, I will definitely have a change due to gravity itself.
Sure, and maybe not. We are uncertain about it. So much power, just imagine. If 150 mph can be felt now, just think about it. And moving at half the speed of light, for sure it's intense.
I imagine you.
Head for one arm and your arm for another rotten one, huh?
Sure. If you go in a linear fashion, maybe not. But at the moment you change a direction, if you go straight, no. But at the moment you start what you go at a speed. And we have another force that attracts us, that will always want to attract you at the speed it is. If the car is not ready, the first thing you're going to try to get up assuming it's stuck, then you will anchor yourself more. That is, you will go strong. Gravity is going to pull you much more to the ground. Let's put it that way. And that can generate a terrible event for you if you are not prepared. That's why aviators, even when they break the sound barrier, must be prepared, because they can faint due to the effect of gravity. So although the team as such is prepared, but you're inside and it's gravity that gets you. And does that cause you that inconvenience?
And apart from that, if we start thinking, not because we always think about the impulse, first, we don't even have it. I think the concept of how to get that energy to propel us towards that speed. And secondly, to be able to brake, you also need energy. In other words, we never see that component that, as you say, we always think we have made rechargeable batteries and everything, but we never think we are behind.
And when you brake, you generate another counterforce. In other words, that the one who needs you, the one you need so that that object stop and can cause, what do I know, your eyes to bulge out and come out like in cartoons.
We're laughing.
Because there is a law, there is energy, there are forces that it generates, and our body is not designed for this. So we need to evaluate all those possibilities.
Sure. It seems plausible and worth further consideration indeed.
The facial covering or mask. Let's delve into it. It's quite fascinating because, as you pointed out, we aren't exactly adept at preventive measures. We may not always be the most daring, nor are we perpetually cautious. Sometimes our foresight is limited due to a lack of imaginative thinking coupled with uncertainties on the path to our goals. What could be all the possible repercussions? I wanted to inquire from both of you. into, especially in the context of this universe we delve into when examining minute components. We often discuss the vast universe, which is undoubtedly impressive, but let's focus on the minute, the nano. I'm eager to hear your perspectives on the intricacies of the world, a microcosmic universe that many believe holds the keys to the secrets of existence. What are your thoughts on this viewpoint? I'll undertake this exploration personally.
Hello.
So I like to go by saying as above, so below. So like as you study the details of life, you can understand some more of the secrets of life. So like studying like the flower of life, some kind of like sacred geometry that's kind of seen in many different areas of life and it's in cells, like, et cetera, et cetera, right? So like that's one of the details of life of that was kind of like found and that's like considered like an energy symbol too. It's kind of like one of those details that was just like that's like a universal secret. And it's so it's like as you go down deeper into the quantum world, you could discover more about the outer world, the macro world, because as above, so below. And like the deeper you get down into the nano world, it's discovering more of like the in between materials, like what is in between wood fibers versus like what's in between like the spacing or like the air between our skin. It's like if you could discover that, next thing you know, you can travel through objects because you discover the air between the objects and then the way to get through them. So like the nano is like it's very interesting because then you just realize like space is like more abundant than anything else.
Finds the quantum world very interesting because it's as if there's a universe bigger in those little details than the universe itself. That is, like, for example, atoms that is much smaller particles can go through there. I mean, it's like it is like his own universe. No, so he finds that world, and maybe there are the universe's answers too, right? How do I know how everything fits together, don't you? How is everything composed and kept balanced?
Sure. Well, it's always said that small steps can lead you to something much bigger or something much bigger, right? At the quantum level, we have not yet developed much, nor have I seen much, because really, by considering it the smallest thing we do, not give it the greatest relevance. That at the quantum level, at the biological level, give greater importance to single-celled or small being. And if we move back millions of years, the origin of us was through an organism with a cell, and then this single-celled organism generated. What is the origin for us? Now, and likewise in the chemical part or the quantum part, that small quantum part generated something gigantic, but we do not give it relevance because, as we have already seen from the beginning, you are looking for other things. It is theorizing, and you don't measure things, or you're not careful, and you don't say, hey, but we go from small to big or to big. Let us also study small things. And looking at it this way, we also do not lend something as tiny as a virus to much matter. A bacteria that we already saw, that a virus kept us locked up for a long time, and a lot of people died. So yes, we have to do the micro study, not only also in the quantum part. Speaking of quantum behavior, electrons. For me, for example, at university, I remember that at some point I had to measure the amount of energy that an electron has to move from one layer to another, from one orbit to another within the atom. That he could do it, and we were able to calculate it during classes. But at the same time, beyond that, there is something smaller that we also don't know, and that could certainly be the key to where we are. We saw it. Maybe that's the key to being able to generate that. Time travel, perhaps, because for sure, if we manage to dominate the quantum world, as we already saw in Marvel, we can get to know the behavior of each one of the atoms and how to keep them unchanged and thus be able to travel in time, right? Or put those changes that we require in time. In this linear measure, as I tell you, as we saw, as Kevin already said, which is like making loops that go in a straight line. Yes, but if we don't know how tiny the quantum world is, and perhaps that is the key so that we can travel in time, that reaching the quantum world so that these particles, these microparticles, no, they don't change, but they stay stable, and so the whole structure doesn't change.
I have thought of what you said, David, and what you said that also apparently carrying the quantum world, because a lot of people go to people who study physics and ask them if this theory we're going to do calculation, but the quantum world seems to be a new offshoot, not even new. I think it's quantum chemistry because, for example, you said it, you could measure the force of an electron. No. So when you do that, it's a chemical component, not an atom. All these things, then apparently the chemist is the one who seems to have that perhaps infuse himself a little more into the research because, for example, you always hear what physics and physics and physics are. And from what I'm understanding right now, it's more the quantum world is structured in chemistry because force, yes, force exists, but they exist by chemical compositions. They don't exist just because they exist. Is there a chemical revision behind that? No? I don't know what you think.
Yes, what happens is that everything to see, we love to separate, and physics, only physics and chemistry. He talks about chemistry, but I believe that we need to unify criteria because at the end of the day, the quantum world is an underworld, and that, no, not underworld, but it is. It's something smaller that hasn't been studied yet, but it also has to do with how an atomic subparticle that is an atom is an atom. It is something that generated life. It is something that is chemistry. And there is also a physical process. Also get into the quantum world and be able to calculate the quantum world or the structures or what's in the quantum world.
And mathematics too, correct?
Yes, it is different branches that must be unified to be able to achieve this study. Not just the study of physics. The study of physics helps us a lot in itself, but other careers must be involved because we are going to the smallest thing, and each one must carry their concept and their flag to unify non-separate criteria, because in general we are always going to walk separately.
Quantum world being like chemical before. I always thought it was like physics, like physics into it. But then thinking about like the chemical world and like also time traveling with like not changing its compositions, like that's very interesting. Now, like with the quantum world being like chemical reaction, it's like it's chemicals reacting together, like atoms and protons and all those combining, colliding, and creating a reaction that multiplies, doubles, quadruples into a finger that we have here, right? Or into a piece of wood. Like thinking about like those chemical reaction, like I wonder, is there other materials or other components attached to the individual atom or the individual proton, even at like a deeper level that even like makes the proton a proton? I mean, like I guess we're just diving down like the rabbit hole, but
Yeah.
like
I can ask like already at an atomic or subatomic level. So he asks, for example, if you have the knowledge that, for example, if a proton, an electron, let's say another component adheres, what is the reaction that causes? I mean, what can cause that reaction at that level?
Well, the first thing is, if we look at it, that's why the atom was graphed as if the solar system were the nucleus and that the electrons rotate around it in what was called layers, or what is called layers, and that every one is in a certain number of electrons. These electrons are not held statically, but rather they kind of jump from one place to another. and it generates energy, but these go back and forth now, and these are the ones that generate the charges of each one of this atom. Not then something will interfere. Let's say this normality or this behavior of this element varies, and that's already his behavior. I wouldn't know if it would hold. As you know, we know him. And this would alter this other one a lot. So, because as I tell you, yes, the spin of the electron that travels from one layer to another. What is the energy that this electron emits to jump? Well, yes, I remember measuring. Measure in the, if this is not as a measurement, but rather do the calculation already. That is, be able to calculate it mathematically. Physicists mathematically determined how to measure. Of course, and if there is any change in this, it will no longer be the same and its behavior will vary. It will no longer be the same element. Yes.
So there's a field, there's a drastic change as the atoms or any component adheres to to these components, don't you? Of course, this is very interesting because I was watching a documentary about neutrinos, which is perhaps very complicated and perhaps a topic that we have to leave later because the neutrino supposedly appears on one side, and if you don't see it, you see it on one side, but it's also existing on the other side. Which seems a bit of I find it so fascinating. It's not like one thing, it behaves depending on how you look at it, and it's very interesting because it's as if both sides existed at the same time. It doesn't. Or to me, I mean, it seems to me maybe it's moving so fast that that average goes maybe way beyond the speed of light, right?
Of course, but what happens is that the name is neutral. That is, it is neutral. I mean, no, it doesn't generate an electrical charge. Let's put it this way. It's something neutral. So something that does generate a change for you, or is going to be something that has a charge, and that's why they are like ghosts that move more or less, is not going to interfere with you because it is going to move so fast that it doesn't change your structure. It doesn't change anything for you.
That's interesting stuff. And Kevin and I watched that documentary. We were talking a while ago. We're talking.
Your thoughts about what David was saying?
Yeah, that kind of like brought like a little spark of like Nikola Tesla in a sense, because like if it could produce a charge and if it could produce like an electrical charge, that's kind of like saying like there is free energy around us, and it's just how do we tap into the free energy or like as a tool?
Oh, I gotta ask him that before I lose the translation.
It is very interesting what he says, and I believe that with this, we are perhaps going to culminate him. He says, for example, we like it a lot. Nikola Tesla is also a very brilliant man. No, he says that, for example, neutrinos are neutral, but I mean, because of knowing this, that it is neutral, no, that means that perhaps there is free energy there, right? As Nikola Tesla had calculated, he said that there are unlimited sources of energy which can be taken, but we do not have the technology to do it. What do you think about this, David?
I think, yes, that there are opportunities to get unlimited and free energy from what we have, because in physics it is said that a body at rest is the body at rest. It has energy and generates energy. And we all know that we are all sources of energy. And as we saw throughout this dialogue that we had today, everything is based on energy, gravity. They are different energies. Maybe there are magnets. There is a type of energy. So I think we do start studying these atomic subparticles or what we have around us. Can we have those inexhaustible sources of energy that someone is not going to suit? Yeah, I think so. These fields are not yet well defined or studied and could help us to generate a great contribution for humanity. Perhaps the investigations will be stopped by those who don't want that, because I don't think that a government wants to have limited electricity and that it doesn't yai, that you obtain it from resources around you. And many already do not have wind plants and tell you that they are very expensive or that they cannot generate the adequate amount of energy that you require, but they apply it to you and leave it to you in a permissible way and allow you to use them because it is also expensive. Face in the sense not of the wind, but of the instrument that needs to be put in so that it can be generated. Of the wind and energy, that is the device that catches the wind, the propeller, this big thing that generates the movement. And with that movement, you obtain energy. That's expensive, and that's why they allow you to use it. But if it is something that you take from the environment, which is very free, it has no value. I don't think they'll let you or allow any progress on that.
Sure. It's fascinating because Tesla was a remarkable man.
Extremely, extremely intelligent.
Very, very, very outside his time because he was talking about internet connections. That is, the man was talking about a super advanced technology, which today we are seeing part of it, and it would be interesting. I don't know what Escaven thinks, and we ask him Oran too. That maybe our next topic is based on the things that Tesla maybe more or less had in his mind. No, I don't know what you think, David, or you have another podcast that you want to talk about.
I believe that we can discuss different topics from a more down to earth point of view. What are we thinking? Because we still can't get into Tesla's head because only he not only understood, but he took all that we can have issues, try to talk about his work, how transmit that energy. Look, we support Wi-Fi and it's through our atmosphere. I mean, there are components that allow you that transmission.
No, and it's energy, isn't it?
Exactly. The only thing it does is disperse it in space, but no one tells you what that transmission is like and why it is transmitted through space. That's like the question I asked my daughters one day, hey, and why do you see the objects? No, because I have eyes. No. We don't go to the simplest because you are an object. No, because the light, I don't know what to say to it. No, we can see objects through the light because I can have my eyes well. And if I put a cardboard on my head where no light enters, even if my eyes are fine, I will be able to see them. Maybe we need to make an analogy that enters a small light trial into this box that we are living in right now to be able to see, of course.
I don't know this one.
What do you think, David? Are you ready for the next challenge? Or I would also like to know what, apart from Nikola Tesla, because I think that he perhaps has many interesting things that we can analyze from a point, for example, from his biography, from a psychological point of view, from a chemical point of view. But for example, what I would also like to know, what would you like to talk about in a podcast here with us?
I believe that it would be guidance for the population to know what could harm us from something that in everyday life, just as we talked about what you said about the application of food, is not only seeing the point of view of food, but we are surrounded by many pollutants that we don't know, or we are living many things, or that we apply them poorly. Guidance on what we can do well, what we have, what we would have to change in everything, in something every day, like the same fact of taking a medicine and saying, hey, it will do me good, it won't do me good, or why did you stop using this product? For example, can we take a topic that hears they stopped using this compound? Why was it then, to explain the story and why it was stopped, so that people understood or managed to know that they simply yes it, and you say no, 30 years ago I consumed it and nothing happened to me. Yes, but at that time there was not the same polluting effect as now. With the pollution we have, the change in our cell can quickly generate cancer, for example, which is very, very common. It's a more serious illness. So talk about this, because this is day to day and you don't talk or try to minimize. And we could talk about that. No. Not only from a chemical standpoint, But why not? No, no, we don't report being a little more social. Try to explain to him, because not everyone has a knowledge of why he left. You just sometimes watch the news and you don't take it seriously. There are many things that rebuke us and that remain disused for a long time. I think so, mate.
It seems very interesting what you're saying, because I think that if we could start, for example, aerosols were something that they removed, not because it was polluting. We can go that way, and I would also like, and I don't know what you think, to go on the side of the chemical component that we put in our foods. What effects do the hormones they put on chickens, because they used to feed them, have on the body? Of course, I don't know what you think. Do you think that should be it? After testing the next topic, I don't know. I see you decide to me
I will go and inform you, Kevin.
that he likes what you've proposed. Also, that especially with everyday things, and also part of that everyday thing, what we put into our body, right?
Exactly, because not everyone knows that there are some preservatives that have no longer been safe, because it is already being seen that this could cause you some disease, and we continue to consume it, and many times without knowing the risk.
Without even knowing if it has addictive properties.
Not or also addictive. The industry as such, I'm not going to tell you.
That's just the way it is, and I find it fascinating. Let's proceed. We pledge to emulate Nikola Tesla, which I believe will be an exciting endeavor
Absolutely.
of crazy people.
If this has come out as some question,
From Tapa Marte onwards, we transition to everyday life. On a daily basis, I find two very interesting topics, and what's more, we are going to give them a promo. We are going to do a promotion to anticipate the listeners so that they know and have questions, not before the program even happens, so that we can to interact with our audience that deserves it so much, right?
let them propose what about what, because everyone has doubts. Hey, I'm consuming this and it will do me good, or what, or I'm consuming this, some of these components will do me harm. Which ones do you believe? Because at the end of the day, this is a podcast. The podcast talks about ethical issues, where do the right thing or the proper thing, or is about that.
Sure. And come on, we owe it to our audience. How are we going to do it? Kevin, if you have some words that I learned a lot, I don't know to conclude what. What do you think was the most interesting thing about this episode?
To worry about what we put into our foods, to the future that comes with technology and chemical advancements, to black holes in the universe changing our chemistry and how to travel time, and the quantum world, and how it's not only physics, but it's also chemical and the reactions that go on in the quantum world. I can't wait to talk about Nikola Tesla, and I can't wait to talk about the industry of what we put into our bodies and how that also impacts us, which could lead to cancer, and ways to prevent health because of the chemical industry. But yeah, I can't wait to talk about all these topics. I had such an amazing time today. It like blew my mind. It expanded me in so many great ways. Thank you so much, David. Thank you.
He is very grateful that his head also exploded to talk about so many topics. The quantum topic, also the topic of the universe, of all that. That is all the compositions, and for him it's awakening. That chemistry is as important as the universe itself. So really, David, I thank you very much, because I think that people can now look at chemistry from a different perspective. No, because unfortunately they think it's only calculative, but it's also imaginative and creative, and you can talk about so many things about chemistry. For example, let's talk about Nikola Tesla. He was a genius. I mean, a genius, but we're talking about a man that he not only knew about physics, but he also had to have known about chemistry, how certain things work. No, because no, you can't just make a theory and create something out of the theory. Or maybe he had chemistry friends who helped him do these experiments too. So I'll leave you with the last word, David.
Thank you both. Really, this has been amazing. One night of having thought beyond the box, as I told you, the analogy of the box, that inside the box where everything is dark, you can't see anything, but generate that ray of light that allows me to see outside of the box, to repeat the concept and what power. Reaching people who also achieve the same thing, that is producing that impact, that they can also think and can generate doubt, because everything begins with a question, and answering that question, that curiosity has generated many inventions or many improvements in everything ours. On our planet, then the questions were very good, too cool, too good, that really getting out of the mold is good because it allows you to think beyond, and also the idea of being able to talk about topics from people who were fantastic for science and have a thought not equal to it. Understanding that intellect will raise many profound questions far surpassing creativity and beyond comprehension.
Straight out of the box. That's the box.
And that's the curiosity in this one. Case didn't kill the cat, rather it left him well fed.
We are sincerely grateful for the information.
Again, this is the Ethics Guild podcast. We value the fact that you tune with us, and we learn so much from one another. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment. Don't forget to subscribe, support the channel with your subscription and hitting that like button. And we're here to answer any of your questions. And stay tuned. We're going to have more with David Andrade, our favorite chemist and friend, and my super co-host, Kevin. And very soon, Autumn will be back. And you already know how Autumn is. She is. If we are curious, Autumn is like super curious and has really great questions. So we'll see you next time. Thank you.
I'm trying to coexist. Yeah, I'm trying to coexist.